Our featured guest tonight is the filmmaker behind the first film in history to sweep all three major awards at the Sundance Film Festival with her film Hive. The film follows the true story, is it Fahrije Hoti?
Fahrije Hoti.
In the aftermath of the Kosovo War and the Kosovan official submission for Oscar consideration at this year's Academy Awards. Here to talk about the film is writer and director Blerta Basholli. Blerta, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Congratulations on a fantastic film and a fantastic achievement. Your film Hive is truly a phenomenal film.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad you liked it. And, we worked hard on it. We really worked with a lot of passion and put a lot of effort in it. So it really feels great to hear that from you and everyone, of course.
So, and for those who don't already know you, you've had a relatively long career working in the film industry as an assistant director leading up to this moment. Was your goal always to become a writer-director?
Yes, I was actually assistant directing only because I really like being on set. So whenever I could not direct, I was like, I don't want to do any other jobs rather than filmmaking. So I jumped in as a first AD in a lot of feature films, but I have written and directed a lot of short films and documentaries on the way as well. So for me, it was always writing and directing, but assistant directing was instead of working in a bank or something, I was like, I'd rather just be on a film set and do first ADing.
So growing up, did movies or TV play a big role in your life?
Yes. I grew up, for Kosovo, a lot of people really know about the war period, but we really lived in a long time in occupation. And we actually didn't even have our own TV, because the TV was taken. So it was the TV always in Serbian, but then we had a cinema, which didn't have a lot of great films. So we really mostly would watch the films on TV, and that would be usually through my father, who really watched a lot of Western films because he really likes image and he doesn't like to read a lot of subtitles. So he was like, I like films when it goes 20 minutes and I'm just watching John Wayne and then in a horse and nobody talks in 20 minutes. But I think really that's what's stayed with me was really the composition and the imagery of those films.
You grew up in that area, no?
Yes.
And so to have her as the kind of the lead character in this film on this subject matter, coming from where you come from, does that make it extra special?
Yes, of course. For me, it was like really at the beginning. I come from Kosovo. I don't live in the same exact area where she comes from, but my father does come from a village, so I'm not so like distant from the rural life either. So for me, it was, in a way, it happened accidentally that I heard of the story and I really liked the story. But then when I met her in person, it was really her that mostly inspired me and like motivated me to do this kind of story, like as a character-driven story and more focused, even camera-wise, on her. But it does make it extra special because I come from there. A lot of the women really remind me of my mom, or of my grandmother, of myself, of my sisters. So really it is like bringing all these women in my life from Kosovo, like putting in this one character. And in many levels, although I haven't lost anyone during the war, but while writing the script, I became a mother. I grew up as a woman. I grew up even while making the film, not just literally growing up because of the years. So in a way, it was in many levels very personal to me as a story and as a character. So it made it very special and more, I think, even more emotional for me to go through those scenes and those moments, even while writing and directing it in a way.
Now, when you heard her story, how soon after that did you decide this is a story I have to tell?
I think it was 5 minutes, to be honest. So it was like I was in New York then when my husband was watching, my then boyfriend was watching the TV. He still watched a lot of Kosovo TV. So he called me and he was like, this is a really interesting story for your next feature film. And I was actually had another script which I was developing on my last year at NYU, and then he called me and he was like, oh, I really think this is a story for your next feature film. And we sat down and listened to her story. I was like, I think you're right. We should really go and meet this woman. And really, we went back to Kosovo and met her almost immediately. And as I said, it was her story. But then when I met her in person, I was like, oh, and actually, we just went there to ask her, would she accept us to make a film about her? Because the decision was made in a way right away.
And for those of our viewers who haven't picked up on it yet, this movie is based on a true story. And when you met her for the first time, did your expectations of what she would be like measure up to reality? I mean, was she as you imagined?
Because she was just strong figure standing in front of us, telling about everything that was happening to her, how she dealt with it, what she thought, and why she decided to just continue and women together with her. And I was just really amazed. I was like, there's a businesswoman, a psychologist, a visionary, I don't know, a politician all in one. And she didn't even go to university because she didn't have a chance to study or anything. But then I think she was just a born activist, or I don't know what to call her, because she did so many things more than any of us could do for herself, but also for all the women around her that are still working with her in a way.
Well, and it's interesting that you would say that, because there's so many touching, delicate subjects tackled in this one film. I watched it, and I mean, societal structures, patriarchal systems, politics, women's rights, war, crime, the loss of loved ones, the whole concept of mourning, and when do you start it if the person that you're mourning hasn't been found yet, dead or alive. And you're telling a true story here. How did you approach writing the film with so much that you had to unpack?
Exactly. That was the first comment when I was developing a script. I was on a producing workshop, and one of the mentors, he was a script consultant, and I was talking a little bit to him, and he was like, Blerta, you have too many lines in this film. And I was like, I do, but I can't kill any of them because it's the way the story is. And when I was talking, I mean, I had to kill a lot of things to get a lot of things out of the script. So that's in a way to focus the story on her and really decide what part of her life I want to focus on. Because as I say it a lot of times, like I could have made many films about her, what she went through the war, what she went right after the war, and even today, like, I don't know, I think I could have just made a lot of films about her. But then, you have to make a decision so people can follow in a certain way. But then even on that amount of time, it's a lot of lies. It's the bees, it's a husband, it's this and that. And I kind of, it was a struggle because I really wanted those combined because they were true. It's not that I wrote a fiction line of her story. Everything was true in her, what happened to her. So I was really trying to make it as natural and as fluid as it can be.
Why do you think her story is so relevant today? I mean, in your mind, what does her story mean, and what does it have left to teach us?
I just hope, in terms of teaching, I hope it will just make us think more about how we treat other people, whether that's for women or men or a person who's a different nationality or race or equality, sexuality, or even gender or whatever. I hope just it makes us think about it. That we are all human beings, that we're all struggling with something, that it's not easy to live in for anybody. So I hope we just make us think and think about each other and raise a discussion into like just making a more equal world for everybody, because this is, of course, a women's story, and I'm sure more women will connect to this story than men and other people. But for me, I hope it will really, people will connect to the character as a human to human rather than just women to women.